Hello everybody, and welcome back to Mupptown Funk. As always, I'm your host Ty, and today we're going to be breaking down some very interesting Muppet news that was recently released. You see, a few months ago at D23, Disney announced that a new Monsters, Inc. section would be coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios, and rumors quickly started swirling around that it would be replacing Muppet Vision 3D, a Muppet-themed 3D show that's been around in the park since 1991, and was the last project that Jim Henson directed. Today, unfortunately, those rumors have been confirmed as true, but there's much more to the story. Disney will be closing down Muppet Vision 3D, but they've announced that the Muppets will actually be relocated in the park and gain a brand new experience. It's a very interesting situation, and today I want to do a kind of casual news video giving my thoughts on all of this. It's not going to be very heavily edited. I'm just going to be going through this article, discussing it, and giving my opinions. There are going to be a lot of rumors swirling around over the next few days, so I want to start off by giving you guys the facts. What do we know about what's going on here? So let's read the official article from the Disney Parks blog. New doors open for Monsters and Muppets at Hollywood Studios, released on November 22nd, just a few days back. Get ready to open the door because Mike and Sully are coming to town. That's right, humans will be able to enter the world of Monsters, Inc. when it's added to the south side of Disney's Hollywood Studios. Building off the exciting announcements from last summer's D23, the new land will include the coaster we've all dreamed of, a suspended ride recreating the door vault scene, plus dining and shopping and a whole new theater show. So as you can see, we have what I assume will be the building for the roller coaster back here, as well as the pretty obvious Muppet Theater right here. Now, honestly, when they announced this Monsters, Inc. land, I thought it was kind of a strange idea. Before the Muppet Vision rumors swirled in, I thought it was honestly kind of an odd choice. Part of me was like, wait, they don't have a Monsters, Inc. area? How do they not have a Monsters, Inc. area? And I don't believe they do in any of the Disney parks. But Monsters, Inc. is still a pretty heavily represented franchise across all the Disney parks. Over in California, you have Mike and Sully to the Rescue, the great Monsters, Inc. dark ride. I think it's pretty fun. It used to be Superstar Limo. That wasn't very fun, but you have that. That's a dark ride that I quite enjoy. Then in Tomorrowland, I believe in Tomorrowland in both American parks, you have the Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor show. Now, I haven't been to Disney World in Florida since 2018. I was in Disneyland just last summer, but if any of my information about Disney World is wrong, please let me know, because it has been a while since I've been there. I believe Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor is still operating, and that's what makes the concept of doing a theater show so strange to me. If you're going to do like a new 3D film for Muppet Vision 3D, why not? Well, first off, why, right? You have a Monsters, Inc. show already, and then why not move Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor over into the theater? You know, I think it's kind of strange. You already have a Monsters, Inc. themed show in another park, and now you're adding a Monsters, Inc. land, and you're like, here, you know what we need? Another Monsters, Inc. show. This is going to be a hot take, but, like, honestly, if you're really going to try to make this a more interesting experience, and you already have a Monsters, Inc. show somewhere else, and you've already committed to getting rid of Muppet Vision 3D, maybe demolishing the theater would have been a good idea. I don't want that, but I just find it strange that now we'll have two Monsters, Inc. shows and also a roller coaster when you could have done something else. And honestly, could have done something else is my main opinion about all of this Monsters, Inc. stuff. As much as I love Monsters, Inc., don't get me wrong, I'm a big Pixar fan. My main channel is dedicated to the Cars movies, of all things. One of my biggest passions. And I love Monsters, Inc. Don't have a problem with Monsters, Inc. It's a Pixar classic, but I feel like since Monsters, Inc. was already pretty well represented in the parks, you could have just picked a different theme, a more interesting theme. You know, it feels like this was one of their first ideas, and they were just like, oh yeah, we don't have a Monsters, Inc. thing, go, put it there. You know, I think a lot of us expected Muppet Vision to not have much time left. It's been in the parks unaltered for over 30 years. That's basically unheard of for the Disney parks. They're always updating things and changing things, but if you go in Muppet Vision today, it's going to be the same show that played all the way back in 1991 when it opened. and you can basically always walk into Muppet Vision with no problem. There's never like a line. The wait time is never bad, and I think you could use that to make the argument that it simply isn't all that popular, or as popular as it once was, which makes sense. The Muppets aren't as popular as they used to be, but also the show has remained unaltered for over 30 years. A lot of us Disney Parks fans were dreading the day this announcement would come, because a lot of us knew that due to how Muppet Vision is and has been, it was an inevitability. It's kind of tucked away in the back of the park. The gift shop for it closed down a few years ago, from what I've heard. They sometimes replace the Miss Piggy fountain with like a plant area, which is kind of weird. I think Muppet Vision's days have been numbered for a very long time, and a lot of us were fearing that, which is why there's been so much backlash here. Another reason why there's been so much backlash is obviously the fact that Muppet Vision 3D was one of the last things that Jim Henson worked on. One of the last things he did before his death. The last thing he directed was Muppet Vision 3D, and I've already seen a lot of people throwing around accusations that this is disrespectful to his legacy. I don't find myself in a position where I feel it's appropriate for me to say that or make claims regarding that. We don't know what Jim Henson would have wanted, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, obviously. You know, there's no doubt that I'm sure the other Muppeteers were contacted about this. I really doubt they wouldn't be, considering they're making a new Muppet ride that will require their involvement. But, you know, I could definitely see the angle of this is disrespectful. And closing down the last thing he did before his passing definitely does rub me the wrong way. And I definitely do feel that it can be perceived as kind of disrespectful. I definitely see that angle. And while I think it's perfectly valid to be upset with the closure of Muppet Vision 3D, there certainly is a silver lining here, because the Muppets aren't leaving Disney World. They're not even leaving Hollywood Studios. The next part of this article goes on to reveal the plans for the Muppets moving forward, and it's certainly very interesting. To make way for the monsters, Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, and more of their friends will be moving right along to Sunset Boulevard. But there's more to the story. The Muppets will be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster, teaming up with some of music's biggest stars for a rock and music festival. Look at that concept art. That looks beautiful. For those of you who don't know, Rock and Roller Coaster has been a very popular roller coaster in Disney World and Hollywood Studios for a very long time now. It's themed to the music of Aerosmith, and now it's getting a Muppet overhaul. I want to start off by talking about how incredible this concept art looks. Apparently it's inspired by the original poster from when Rock and Roller Coaster opened back in the day, but now we have, of course, the limo ride vehicle repainted to look like a car the Electric Mayhem painted, and we have the whole band in there alongside Kermit and Piggy. All the characters here look great. We got Dr. Teeth, Floyd, Janice, Zoot, and Lips. The fact that Lips is on a poster for a Disney ride is insane. Okay, the fact that Lips is now fully treated like a main character for the Muppets is incredible, and I think it's just so funny that he's here. Animal here too. I think he looks a bit off, honestly. Everybody here looks beautifully drawn, except Animal looks a little strange to me. His eyes are kind of weirdly close together, head shape's a bit off maybe. Piggy and Kermit look perfect. The band looks really great. Some nice stylization here with that art style. If this is like an actual poster they'd sell, I'd love to buy this. This looks really, really nice, and I wish there was an artist signature here somewhere, so that we could shout out the artist. Their license plate says Muppets, as you can see, with the E being a 3. How funny and clever. But wait, is Janice's legs are dangling out of the side of the car. Somebody didn't keep their hands, arms, and legs outside of the vehicle at all times. Janice. Thanks, Janice. Anyway, yeah, I just want to take a moment to appreciate how great this concept art is. But there you go. That's what they're doing with the Muppets. They're moving them over to Rock and Roller Coaster, moving them to another part of the park. And this is such an interesting solution to me. Part of me wonders if this is a quick fix, if they knew, like, they saw the backlash a few months back about the rumors Muppet Vision was closing, and they quickly said, hey, let's put the Muppets somewhere else so people aren't as upset, right? I'm not sure if that was a plan. This could have been the plan for a very long time. I actually vaguely remember hearing rumors of a Rock and Roller Coaster retheme a while back, so maybe it is something that they've been planning to do. It's 2024. Aerosmith obviously isn't as popular as they were back in the 80s and 90s when it opened, and perhaps having something that is a Disney property could help out the ride and actually prolong its longevity in case Aerosmith ever said, hey, like, we don't want to support the ride anymore. You know, Aerosmith isn't Disney's property, right? It's a band that they teamed up with to make the ride. There is a part of me that finds it very strange that we're getting a Muppet roller coaster, right? Like, Muppets and roller coaster kind of go together perfectly. As the article goes on to say, we know so many of you share our love for the Muppets and know their energy will be a perfect fit for this coaster. Yeah, so the Muppets are always so chaotic, and an electric mayhem themed roller coaster sounds like a dream to a Muppet fan. It's just that we have to take it at the same time as the announcement that Muppet Vision is closing. This is like the compliment sandwich of theme park announcements. You're getting Monsters Inc. and a new Muppet ride, but we're closing Muppet Vision, and it's gone. You know, it's so much of this article feels like damage control. They're like, yeah, we're closing Muppet Vision, but look, the Muppets are here now. And obviously, there's definitely a case to be made. A lot of people like to say that Disney disrespects the Muppets. And again, much like the disrespecting Jim Henson angle, I completely get it. I've certainly complained several times over the history of this channel about the state of the Muppets currently, and I really don't like where they are right now, jumping from project to project randomly. It feels like nobody knows what to do with the Muppets right now, and when they experiment with something and it starts working, it gets canceled. You know, the Muppets Mayhem was a great show, and it got canceled after one season. The ABC Muppet Show had a lot of problems, but a lot of Muppet fans really liked it, and I get comments on my channel all the time from people saying, hey, I wish this show had lasted longer so it got a chance to kind of spread its wings. And so I totally get that angle of, like, Disney doesn't know what to do with the Muppets. I think that's how I'd phrase it. I wouldn't say they're disrespecting them. I'd say that they often don't know what to do with these characters, and I think there's a case that could be made that having them take over a roller coaster could be them not knowing what to do with the characters. But I also see it from the angle of, I think, a more positive outlook. It's clear that they knew people still wanted a Muppet experience in the parks. If they wanted to redo something with Muppet Vision, which has been there for over 30 years, and retheme it, the fact that they're keeping the Muppets in the park is honestly a really nice sentiment, and I think it's actually kind of a positive change in a way. I don't like Muppet Vision going away, I certainly don't, but there are a few positives to this. Up first, the Muppets are retheming Rock and Roller Coaster, which is an incredibly popular ride, and I don't think we have to worry about that popularity factor anymore. For years, people have been concerned with the lack of popularity Muppet Vision 3D has, citing that as a main worry as to why it might be closed. But now, the Muppets are being moved over to one of the most popular rides in the park. We don't need to be concerned anymore for the Muppets' safety at the Disney parks. They're going to be taking over an incredibly popular roller coaster. I'm sure that every day, a good chunk of people that ride Rock and Roller Coaster aren't big Aerosmith fans, you know? It's a universally beloved attraction. It's a roller coaster with a rock and roll theme. It's really cool. You don't have to be an Aerosmith fan to enjoy it. And you don't have to be a Muppet fan to enjoy the Muppets' take on it, you know? It's an infinitely popular ride. It's one of those evergreen rides that people are always going to go on no matter what, because people love their roller coasters, and a rock and roll themed roller coaster is a good idea no matter what the theming is. So, while part of me feels bad that the original Rock and Roller Coaster is going out, like, it's such a complicated situation, all of this. I've been trying to record this video for the last hour, guys, because it's so hard to know what to say here, because part of me is like, they're closing Muppet Vision, but they wanted to keep the Muppets around, so now they're taking over Rock and Roller Coaster, another beloved ride. We kind of took out two beloved rides, and Part of me is very happy that the Muppets are taking over Rock and Roller Coaster. Part of me is very sad that we're losing Muppet Vision. Another part of me is very happy that they decided to keep the Muppets in the park. There are so many layers. There are a lot of emotions here, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to be very emotional and upset about this, or happy, or bittersweet. I think bittersweet would probably be the best way to put it, because, again, we're losing something iconic, but we're gaining something that could be far more popular. I think another point that I want to make before I wrap up reading the article here is Muppet Vision 3D isn't really a modern reflection of what the Muppets are now, if that makes sense. Muppet Vision 3D has been around since 1991. And like any good performer, the Muppets are constantly evolving and changing and updating, and a lot of Muppet Vision 3D could feel a bit dated because of that. Obviously, there are superficial elements like several of the puppets have been rebuilt since then, or several of the voice actors are no longer performing with the Muppets or have since passed away. Or, maybe the 3D or the CGI effects aren't as good as they looked back in 1991 when it opened up. But also, on a story level, most of the major Muppet characters don't really appear in Muppet Vision 3D. I remember as a kid being pretty disappointed with the lack of character selection, and while that's something I don't mind as much now that I'm older, to a kid who's a big Muppet fan now, you're not going to get much out of Waldo C. Graphic and Bean Bunny. And I think that's a big point, in my opinion, that two of the most significant characters in Muppet Vision 3D are not relevant to the Muppets. Bean Bunny hasn't appeared since Muppets Wizard of Oz almost 20 years ago, and I don't even know the last time Waldo showed up. As far as I know, Muppet Vision 3D may very well be Waldo's last appearance. They're two characters that aren't relevant to the modern Muppets, and the only thing keeping them relevant was their inclusion in Muppet Vision. So perhaps a brand new Muppet ride using more evergreen characters like Kermit and Piggy and the Electric Mayhem will be a good move here. This won't feel outdated 20 years from now, because the Muppets are always going to use the Electric Mayhem. Maybe the inclusion of Lips will be not as relevant in the future, because Lips tends to phase in and out of the band. Even in the last 10 years, we saw Lips in the band, and then out of the band, and now he's back in the band with a new performer. Maybe some of the performers will be no longer performing with the Muppets, 20 years from now. But other than that, I think this ride has an evergreen quality if they make the right choices, if they include the right characters and do the right things. Of course, the some of music's biggest stars part will potentially be irrelevant in the future. That's another part I want to briefly touch on, but we'll get back to that real quick. As I was saying before, I can definitely see the perspective of maybe Muppet Vision 3D is a little outdated, and while it would be nice to keep it, for preserving Jim Henson's legacy, preserving the legacy of the Muppets and their history, having a more modern Muppet ride might be something very useful to Disney parks and also to Muppet fans. We get a brand new ride, and that's really nice. It's just a shame we had to lose such an iconic piece of Muppet history to do it. Now, down here, of course, they mention that we will be getting some other stuff here. As the first Disney ride to ever feature the Muppets, there's sure to be laughter, screams, and new tunes for this attraction for fans to enjoy throughout the adventure, and plenty of Muppets-themed merchandise on Sunset Boulevard. It's so shallow for me to say this, but I love the fact that they confirmed that there will be merchandise. The big Muppet gift shop is no longer active, so I think it's very reassuring for them to mention, yes, we will have merchandise. Hopefully they can take over a shop over at Sunset Boulevard. That would be nice. But we do have confirmation of new songs, and again, some of music's biggest stars, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they incorporate, who they incorporate. It's going to be very cool to see what guest stars they get, and what music they include, The recent Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster that just opened in Epcot a few years ago has a really cool feature where there are a few different songs that play depending on when you're on the ride. It's kind of randomized, and I would love to see that incorporated here. I've actually never been on the original Rock and Roller Coaster. I'll go on it now for sure when it's Muppet themed, but I used to not really be a roller coaster person. past. So nowadays I'm fine with it, but I've never been on the original Rock and Roller Coaster. So if that is a feature it had, definitely let me know in the comments. But I think the concept of having a rotating set list would be really cool. Include some iconic classic Muppet songs in there, a really good rock and roll track to be like the anthem for this ride, get some celebrity guests in there. Gonna be some fun music here for sure, and also probably a really cool pre-show. I really love the pre-show of Rock and Roller Coaster. I haven't been on it, but I have seen the pre-show, and it's just like online and stuff. It's pretty cool how it's a recording booth with a screen in the back, and I think having that with the Muppets is gonna be really, really cool. Seeing how they incorporate that, seeing everything rethemed to the Muppets is honestly going to be really cool. And I'm also very excited to see what cameos and Easter eggs they sneak in. One of my favorite parts of the Disney parks is just how good they are at Easter eggs and references. These guys are like the masters of Easter eggs and references. I'm sure we're going to get so many really cool references to Muppet Vision there. Disney loves doing references to rides that they closed in new rides. So I think that could be super cool. They also mentioned that it is the first ever Muppet ride. Previously, we've only had Muppet Vision as a show. And, yeah, maybe we get some Muppet-themed animatronics in there or something. I don't know. We'll have to see. Then we get into the last paragraph here, last few paragraphs, sorry, that mentions some pretty interesting stuff. In the meantime, there's still enough time to catch a super stretch limo to enjoy Rock and Roller Coaster and catch Muppet Vision 3D again before the final curtain calls. But at the very bottom, we have this very important statement. As we move forward with these changes, we are having creative conversations and exploring ways to preserve the film and other parts of the experience for fans to enjoy in the future. This, to me, does, once again, kind of feel like damage control, like going, we know you'll be mad that Muppet Vision's closing, so we're looking into preserving it. And I think that's very, very important. I don't know how they'll preserve it. They mentioned the film and other parts of the experience. Of course, there are a few animatronics in the theater and that great Sweetums walk around. I'll start by saying I really hope that they move the Sweetums walk around to Sunset Boulevard. I could definitely see him being a meet and greet over there. That would be super fun. But it is good to know that they are looking into a way to save Muppet Vision in some capacity. I have a few ideas for that. You could simply drop the film on Disney+. That would be the worst idea, but you could simply drop the film on Disney+. I know DreamWorks did that with like the Shrek 4D film. I think you could just watch it on Netflix for a while or as like a DVD bonus feature. Unfortunately, you would be losing that 3D capability though, and you'd also be losing the animatronic portions, like when Bean Bunny runs up to the balcony and when Sweetums walks out. So it is nice to see they want to preserve other parts of the experience. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Perhaps this is them saying Muppet Vision isn't gone forever. We're going to bring it back in some capacity. Maybe they could put it in another theater in some way eventually. A Disney YouTuber that I really like, Offhand Disney, mentioned in his video on the situation that they could totally put Muppet Vision in the theater building that's already in Sunset Boulevard. For those of you who don't know, this is something I actually covered over on my Cars channel. There was a show called Lightning McQueen's Racing School that was open in Sunset Boulevard for only about 6 years, and they just announced its closure, and it's being replaced with a Disney Villains-themed show. And in that video, I mentioned how strange it was that Disney just announced a Villains Land, and now they're doing a villain show. And Offhand Disney suggested, hey, maybe once that Villain Land is open, you remove the show, move it into Villain Land, and put Muppet Vision 3D back into Sunset Boulevard. I think that could be a really cool solution, but I think it is reassuring to know that they do plan on preserving it in some way. And if they fall through on that, there are plenty of rips on YouTube of Muppet Vision 3D, I'm sure. But yeah, it is nice to know that. And again, I think that is just put in here to reassure fans like us who are going to be very upset about this news. No doubt, there are a lot of new adventures planned for Disney's Hollywood Studios, and we'll have more details to share next year. For now, stay tuned to the Disney Parks blog for more rockin' updates. So, as a whole, pretty mixed on this, pretty bittersweet news. It's really nice to see that the Muppets will be continuing to live on, and I'm very excited to see the Muppets take over a roller coaster. But as I said several times throughout this video, it is a shame we're gonna have to lose Muppet Vision 3D to get there. I'm very happy that Disney Imagineering decided to keep the Muppets in Disney World, and have them overtake one of the most popular rides there, that is nice to know. It's going to be very interesting. And there we have it. Those are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear yours. So please let me know in the comments what you think about the situation. Going to be a lot of emotions here today. I'm sure a lot of people will be much more upset about this than I am, much more critical of this. But please share your opinions in the comments, but do make sure to be respectful to others and everyone here. It's a very interesting situation. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.